Anna, 30s, kind-faced, efficient, places a black coffee, no sugar, in front of a man sitting quietly beside his gray service dog. The dog wears a red vest. Service dog, please do not touch. A health inspector, Eric Danneberg, officious, stands nearby, scribbling on a clipboard. The manager's voice, low, devoid of anger, but cold as a death sentence. Manager OS calmly. You're done here, Anna. A single sentence. 6 years of loyalty severed like a thread. Anna doesn't question, doesn't scream. She silently unties her apron, folds it, and places it on the counter. A farewell ritual. She walks out of Cobalt House, leaving behind whispers that crack like fragile teacups. Not because she broke a rule, but because she refused to evict a soldier who had once risked his life for this country's flag. Unbeknownst to Anna, someone had quietly filmed the entire exchange. A short, shaky, but complete video. And before the clock struck 9 a.m., the shop's peak hour, the ground began to tremble. 4 armored military Humvees rumble into the parking lot. Headlights cut through the morning mist. Doors fly open, and a man in a marine dress uniform steps out. The deep blue fabric gleaming in the sun, buttons shining like metals. Colonel Elric Meyer, a man who nearly died in Kandahar, saved by men like the veteran Anna had just protected. And in that moment, everything began to change. Anna Fischer wasn't the type of woman who turned heads at first glance, but she was the kind you remembered. Forever. She's 35 now, running Cobalt House, tucked away on a quiet street corner in Innsbruck, Austria, just a 20-minute drive from the NATO barracks in Tyrol. The town is like an old European fresco. Red-tiled roofs, brown wooden shutters, and oil lamps that glow every evening. But inside Cobalt House, it's a different world. Warmer, quieter, more human. Anna doesn't run the cafe like a business. She runs it like a sanctuary, a place where people can shed their berets, their boots, or even their pasts at the door and sit down as human beings. No gold-dusted cappuccinos or concept-driven, handwritten menus here. Just strong, hot coffee with free refills. And handwritten notes taped behind the counter. If you need an ear, I'm here. The corner chair is for anyone who doesn't want to be bothered. Coffee for veterans, free, no questions asked. But what makes this place different isn't the coffee, it's Anna. She remembers everyone's name, their old wounds, the little allergies they're embarrassed to mention. She knows who sits quietly for an hour just listening to the clock tick, without saying a word. She never asks them about the battlefield. Only, are you okay today? And waits for the real answer. Every Wednesday morning, she hosts what the soldiers in Tyrol call Stunde der Stille, the hour of silence. No signs, no agenda, just a round table, a pot of coffee, and those who once carried guns. Initially, there were only 3. Otto, a former sniper instructor, back hunched, but eyes still sharp. Elisa, a nurse who served in the Balkans, her laugh like wind chimes in winter. And Joseph, who never spoke, always arrived 10 minutes early and brought homemade bread. Then the circle grew. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Those who returned quietly found their way to her shop. Because there, Anna always began with the same words. Anna, this isn't a place to be healed. This is a place to be heard. And if you don't want to talk, you can just sit here. She rarely spoke of herself, but everyone in the neighborhood knew. Her husband, Master Sergeant Lucas Fischer, died in Helmand 6 years ago. The only photo of him hangs in the corner. He's smiling, a coffee cup in his hand, sitting in front of Cobalt House, a few days before he deployed for the last time. Anna never remarried, never spoke of the future. She doesn't avoid the pain. She brews it fresh each morning, pours it into the pot, and shares it with those who carry the same scars. Anna, VO. I didn't open a cafe to sell coffee. I just opened a window so those who had nowhere else to go could come in and sit for a while. And for that very reason, on this day, when she was fired for refusing to evict a soldier who had shed blood, the entire city of Innsbruck seemed to hold its breath for a coffee that would never be poured. Lucas's only photo hung right above the counter, between two worn wooden beams. Not a military portrait, just him, in a faded flannel shirt, coffee cup in hand, one leg propped on a wooden chair on the porch, smiling, the kind of smile that makes life feel a few tons lighter. The photo was taken 2 weeks before his final deployment, and then he never came home. Anna didn't remarry, didn't talk about it, didn't let anyone bring it up. She poured her pain into every cup of coffee, never letting it spill over, never letting it grow cold. Everyone loved her, but above all, they respected her. The veterans called her Frau Fischer with deep, sincere voices. Children held the door for her, unprompted by their parents. Even the mayor of Innsbruck visited once a month, just to thank her for doing what public offices couldn't, keeping people human. But to Anna, none of that mattered. She didn't need recognition. She just saw it as her duty. A duty without rank, without medals, but demanding no less courage than any battlefield. Every time she brewed an extra espresso for a soldier who didn't dare sit near the window, every time she stepped out from behind the counter just to place a hand on the shoulder of someone sitting too still for too long, every time she let a service dog curl up under a table, no words, no questions. She didn't read regulations. She didn't need laws, just a heart that knew how to listen and hands that didn't tremble when pouring coffee for those who had trembled for their country. That Wednesday morning began like any other. The bell above the door chimed, short, warm, like a first breath of the day. The cafe gradually filled, the clink of spoons, the scrape of wooden chairs on the stone floor. Steam rose from coffee cups like thin smoke, like a silent prayer. Anna, sleeves rolled up, hair in a high bun, poured coffee, a smile on her face. Each movement precise, like a ritual. The first pot of dark roast for the hour of silence was ready. She set out a stack of navy blue ceramic mugs, a type reserved for veterans. They never asked for it, but she established it as a silent tribute. The door opened again. Raymond Keller, Ray 50's tall, quiet, walked in, Shadow, his large, dark gray service dog, by his side. Shadow wore a red vest with white lettering. Diensthund, bitte nicht anfassen. Service dog, please do not touch. Ray was new, around 50, a weathered face, shoulders still held with military straightness. He didn't talk much, didn't stay long, but every time he came, he brought with him something intangible called respect. Anna nodded subtly, gesturing to a table near the window. Anna, softly, still free. Ray nodded, mumbled thanks, and sat down quietly. Shadow settling obediently at his feet. And then the atmosphere changed. The door burst open, this time not with a gentle chime, but like a steel wind. A man strode in, his navy blue suit sharply pressed, his face unsmiling. He carried a clipboard, that symbol many mistake for authority. His name tag gleamed, Eric Danneberg, Tyrol State Health Inspector. Anna had no idea he was coming. She approached, polite. Anna, can I help you, sir? Danneberg curtly. Inspector. Without invitation, he began to walk around, tapping the stainless steel counter, checking labels on syrup bottles, opening the fridge, as if conducting a military inspection. Every movement was cold and precise, like a scalpel. Then he froze. His gaze landed directly on the dog lying at Ray's feet. The room fell silent. Danneberg, loudly pointing. That animals, it's a violation of state health regulations. No animals allowed in food service areas. Conversations deed. Chairs stopped swiveling. A silver spoon clattered to the floor. Anna stepped out from behind the counter, as calm as a frozen lake. Anna, that's a licensed service dog. Under Article 17, veteran support legislation, he has the right to be here. Danneberg snapping, I don't care what law it is. Animals are a source of bacteria, fur, saliva. This is a public health risk. If you don't remove it from the premises, I will shut this establishment down immediately. Ray's hand tightened around his coffee cup. Shadow remained still, eyes looking up at his owner. No one spoke up. No one stood with her. Anna took a deep breath. The scent of smoke, coffee, and unheld funerals. Anna, I will not ask a soldier who served this country to leave. And I certainly won't ask his service dog, the only soul that helps him sleep at night, to leave. Her voice wasn't loud, but it resonated further than any speech ever given at City Hall. An old man nearby nodded. Another person whispered, whispering customer. She's right, but it didn't matter, because standing in the doorway then was another figure, and the silent earthquake began. Danneberg scoffing, his voice like sandpaper. I don't care what it's wearing. Animals carry fur, saliva, dander. This is a health hazard. Unless you want this place closed down, that dog needs to leave immediately. No one moved. Ray sat up straighter, his knuckles white around his coffee cup. Shadow remained still, only looking up at his owner, awaiting a signal. The entire cafe fell into a silence, taut as a bowstring about to snap. Anna looked around, her eyes sweeping over familiar faces, over wooden chairs that had heard hundreds of untold stories. She knew what she was about to say couldn't be taken back. And it shouldn't be, Anna. I will not ask a veteran to leave, and I certainly will not ask his service dog to leave. She spoke slowly, deliberately, as if carving each word into the brick wall. Kunted, you can write your report, but write it knowing you just tried to humiliate a man who sacrificed for this country in front of the very people he bled to protect. A beat of silence. From a corner, a low voice mumbled, mumbling customer. She's absolutely right. But the words vanished into the air, because just then the door opened again. A woman entered, tall in a black coat, her face sharp as a blade. Clara Weinberg, regional manager for the Cobalt House chain. No introduction needed. Every employee knew that Face could terminate a contract faster than a POS machine could blink. Clara surveyed the cafe as if she just found a blood stain on a marble floor. Clara, flatly, Anna Fischer, you just violated food safety policy right in front of a health inspector. You're fired. Clear out your things. A spoon dropped to the floor. A cappuccino stopped steaming. Ray shot to his feet, not in defiance but in shock. Anna stood still for a few seconds. She looked around, at the photos of veterans, the corner table with the inscription, Stunde der Stille, hour of silence, free coffee, no explanation needed. She smiled, a very faint smile like a finger brushing a photo of someone long gone. Then she untied her apron, folded it, placed it on the counter as if it were a national flag. She turned to Elena, the young barista frozen by the espresso machine. Anna, remember to refill Ray's coffee, okay? And she walked out the side door, saying nothing more, leaving a terrible emptiness inside the cafe, as if a supporting pillar had just collapsed. No one followed, but somewhere in the room a phone camera was already rolling. And in the universe of social media, where algorithms and quiet hearts reside, that video began to spread. No editing, no background music, just one woman standing up and walking out. In a military office on a hilltop south of Tyrol, amidst tactical maps and medals, Colonel Elric Meyer's phone rang. A short call, but one he couldn't ignore. 35 minutes later, Cobalt House was submerged in an eerie silence. Half the customers had left. The other half sat like statues. No one ordered. No one talked. Elena, her hands still trembling, poured a second cup for Ray. Elena, VO, narrating later. I didn't know what to say, but I knew if I left my post, I'd be betraying her. Ray didn't touch his cup. Shadow remained still, as if guarding something that had just shattered. And then it began. The first sound was like distant thunder. A wooden chair vibrated slightly. Coffee rippled in a cup. The window panes rattled. Coffee in the pot sloshed. Customers turned their heads. A few stepped outside. Then they froze, as if caught in an early morning frost. 4 armored military Humvees approached from the south, through the maple trees and red-tiled houses. Headlights tore through the clouds. Tires crunched on gravel. The vehicles pulled up in formation in front of Cobalt House. Doors opened in unison. A pair of polished boots stepped out first. Colonel Elric Meyer, German Marine dress uniform, dark blue, brass buttons, white gloves. His eyes were unreadable, but his very presence made all regulations, authority, name tags, seem laughably small. Behind him, 2 rows of uniformed soldiers marching in step like a solemn procession. Inside the cafe, no one dared to breathe. Inspector Danneberg stood frozen, his clipboard slipping from his grasp. Clara Weinberg, who had just fired Anna, took a step back from the counter, her face drained of all color. The bell above the door chimed. The colonel entered. Each footstep boomed like a drum beat. Without a word, he stopped in the middle of the cafe. His eyes found Elena, then Ray, standing the 2 former soldiers. Their eyes met. Ray nodded slowly. The colonel raised his hand, a salute, deeper and more profound than any words. Danneberg stammered. Danneberg, I didn't know he was... The colonel didn't reply. He didn't need to. Colonel Meyer to Danneberg. You don't need to know who someone is to treat them with a little respect. He turned to Elena. Colonel Meyer continued. Where is Anna Fischer? Elena. She was fired for defending Mr. Keller in shadow. The colonel's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. Colonel Meyer, that woman has served our military community more than any system ever has. She gave those returning from war a place to breathe, to sit, to not have to explain. And she did it with the very honor this country once promised them, and then forgot. Colonel Meyer clenched his jaw slightly. His voice didn't need to be loud. The weight of his words silenced the room. Colonel Meyer commented, that woman served the community of this base better than an entire welfare system. He paused, ensuring every eye in the cafe was on him. Colonel Meyer commented, she gave my people a place to breathe, a place where they didn't have to perform, a chair to sit in when they were no longer soldiers but not yet civilians. He turned to Ray, a short silence. Then Ray spoke. For the first time, Ray. She didn't ask me who I was. She didn't look at Shadow like he was a problem. She just poured coffee and said, that seat is free. It was the first time in years I felt like a person. The tension in the room shattered like glass. A woman standing near the cash register turned away to wipe her eyes. Colonel Meyer nodded slowly. Then he turned and walked. Straight to the door. He just raised an arm. No words. The Marines immediately filed in one by one. Silent, steady, solemn. 2 went behind the counter. They removed the Cobalt House logo sitting hung from the wall, folding it like a flag that had completed its mission. Another soldier put up a new sign, handwritten white chalk on dark wood. Willkommen im Haus von Anna. Neu den du durch Fukvu Hange. Welcome to Anna's house, where honor is served daily. Clara Weinberg, still standing there, opened her mouth to speak, but the colonel just turned back, looking directly at her. Colonel Meyer, you made your decision. Now, we will make ours. No threat, no raised voice, just justice in silent form. He turned, walked out, pulled out his phone. Less than a minute later, the phone in Elena's pocket vibrated. She looked at the screen, confused. Elena, voice soft, trembling. A message from Fort Tyrol Command. They're requesting Anna Fischer report to base headquarters. Today. The cafe was dead silent. No applause, no protests. Just a feeling, spreading like a slow fire, that they had just witnessed something. Right. Profoundly right. Ray exhaled, slowly, deeply, as if he'd just shed a burden he hadn't dared to face for years. Shadow stood up, no bark, no movement, just quietly moved closer, leaning against his leg. And in Cobalt House, once just a place of coffee and quiet, something began to stir. Not rebellion, but an assessment, a reminder, a silent judgment. Meanwhile, Anna sat in her old pickup truck, parked on the edge of Leopoldstrasse, engine off. She'd been sitting there for 15 minutes, motionless, still in her dark jeans, faded blue flannel shirt, and shoes that had seen countless coffee spills. On her lap, her phone lit up. A message from Fort Tyrol. Request your presence at 1400. Colonel Elric Meyer will receive you personally. Anna looked through the windshield. The street was empty, sunlight slanting through the trees, rustling like a gentle knock on her memory. She replayed it all. The confrontation, Shadow's growl, the dismissal, Ray's eyes. Part of her wanted to turn off the engine and go back. The other part knew that everything had just begun. She turned the key. The engine roared to life. This time she wasn't delivering pastries or coffee, but driving through the iron gates of a military base. Fort Tyrol appeared after a bend, imposing like a separate city, disciplined and orderly. Avenues lined with flags. The sound of drill commands echoed from white concrete buildings. The young soldier at the gate waved her through. No questions asked. Anna had been here many times before, but only as a soldier's wife. This time she entered alone. Colonel Elric Meyer was waiting at the glass door of the administration building. No more dress uniform with white gloves, just neat khaki fatigues, his face calm, the kind of calm that could hold an entire battalion steady with a single look. Colonel Meyer, thank you for coming, Anna. I'm not entirely sure why I'm here. Colonel Meyer, good, then let me show you. They walked down a long corridor, walls adorned with portraits of former commanders, old flags, and deployment maps. Each footstep echoed like a small journey. They stopped before a door with a metal plaque, Transition and Veteran Wellness Initiative, Pilot Program Upgrade. Inside was an empty but vibrant room, chairs unarranged, a whiteboard still blank. A group of young staff members quietly set up therapy mats, checking rehabilitation equipment. There was no grandeur, just the rough beginnings of something being built. Colonel Meyer, we've wanted to launch this program for 2 years. The problem wasn't budget, it was people. It's hard to find someone who understands veterans, not from a form, but from the inside. Anna crossed her arms. Anna, I'm not a therapist. I don't have a degree in social work. I don't lecture. I don't write good reports. I just know how to pour coffee. Colonel Meyer smiled for the first time. Colonel Meyer, you've poured more than just coffee. You've poured them a sense of being seen, being welcomed, being allowed to be silent. He took another step closer. His voice dropped. Colonel Meyer, continued. What you did at Cobalt House, that's exactly what we're missing. A place where people don't have to state their rank, don't need to prove anything. Just be called by their name and sit down. Colonel Meyer paused. Colonel Meyer continued. You did that with coffee and kindness. More than any multi-million euro program has ever truly reached people. Anna didn't reply. She just lightly clasped her hands in front of her. He stepped closer again. His voice was lower, but each word resonated in the empty room. Colonel Meyer Contiti, you created a sanctuary without even knowing you were doing it. In that coffee shop, you weren't serving customers, you were serving dignity. Just then, a quiet voice came from behind a cloth curtain. Voice, OS, is that her? A young woman emerged. Dark brown hair, small face, long sleeves hiding scars that ran up to her neck. Her name tag read, Tiffany Rios. Beside her, a young golden retriever wearing a red vest. In Ausbildung, therapy assistant in training. Tiffany approached, her eyes hesitant. Tiffany, I saw the video about you, the dating, and that man. I haven't dared to go into any coffee shop since I got back. But if this place is run by you, I think I could try. Anna looked at Tiffany. She was speechless for a few seconds. She could only hear her own heartbeat, like a drum against the chest of someone who had lost too much. Colonel Meyer smiled, a short but warm smile. Colonel Meyer, we want to invite you, not as a representative, not as a name on paper, but as the director of this center. The director. Anna was stunned. Anna, are you serious? Colonel Meyer, you will design the program. You will shape the space. Set the culture for this place, not with theory, but with what you've already proven. Community, routine, presence. Anna looked down at Tiffany, now sitting on the floor, gently stroking her dog, as if rediscovering a part of herself. She remembered Ray, remembered Shadow, remembered the small chalk-written signs, free coffee for veterans, no questions asked. And she knew. Anna, whispering, I'll do it. The colonel nodded once, as if stamping a commitment that needed no paper. Colonel Meyer, then let's get to work. That evening, Anna stood alone in the still bare room, but it already had the smell of new paint and a soft yellow light. The space was unfinished, the floor smudged with shoe prints, but the atmosphere already felt very much like a home. She opened her bag, took out a photo. Daniel, her husband, sitting outside the cafe, leg propped up, coffee cup in hand, smiling at the camera. The photo was taken a few weeks before his final deployment, and that was the last time they were together. She pinned the photo to the wall, no frame, no nameplate, just memory and mission. News spread faster than Anna imagined. Before the new week even began, the Transition and Veteran Wellness Center at Fort Tyrol was no longer an initiative. It became a living wave, rolling in from the quietest places. Veterans who had once locked themselves behind wooden doors began to step out. Young soldiers, just returned, hands still shaking, came with family members still in shock. Even the Tiroler Tageszeitung dedicated a full page with a bold headline. From coffee shop to command post, Anna Fischer is rebuilding trust, one cup at a time. There was no grand stage, no celebrity speakers. Anna didn't hire experts, didn't give rousing speeches. She just did the only thing she knew best. Listen and remember. She placed a small whiteboard next to the coffee pot. Need a ride or just someone to sit quietly beside you? No registration forms, no procedures, just honest eyes and an empty chair. Service dogs were allowed to curl up in corners. No one asked questions. No one was turned away. The old leather-bound notebook from the cafe was kept. She added new pages to it, each page bearing a name, a story, a morning they were brave enough to show up. There were days as quiet as untrodden snow, days as heavy as rusted steel, days when no one said anything, just the clinking of spoons. But something deeper was taking shape, a place where pain didn't need to be hidden, and healing didn't need to be loud. Ray came regularly now. Shadow always went straight to his usual corner, lying down as if he'd never left. Tiffany Rio showed up every Tuesday. She still hadn't spoken in the group, but she had started drawing again. Rough sketches of hands, service dogs, people sitting together without needing words. Elena, the young employee from the old cafe, came every Friday, bringing coffee, cinnamon rolls, and a laugh that could soothe an entire room. For every decision from choosing curtain colors to writing the website introduction, Anna always asked Elena first. But not everyone was supportive. Some federal officials frowned. A few in the Ministry of Defense asked curtly, official, via, Matter, why is someone without a psychology degree running a national-level program? The answer would come later, quietly but undeniably at the end. The last to arrive weren't veterans, but auditors. Sharp suits, thick clipboards, eyes that seemed to demand a certification code for every warm gesture. They didn't say much, just diligently checked ledgers, asked about details of the water filtration system, the user manual for the coffee machine, even the storage temperature for pastries. The afternoon dragged on like a taut string. Finally, an older inspector looked up. He looked straight into Anna's eyes. Old inspector, do you have any certification that qualifies you to work with veterans? Anna didn't blink. Anna, softly but firmly, I have no certificate, only kindness, an unwavering resolve. He didn't reply, just wrote a line in his file, then closed it. A week later, an ivory-colored sealed envelope. A red seal, recommendation to expand the Tyrol Center model nationwide. Colonel Mueller called it a victory. Anna just looked at the envelope, smiling. Anna, VMEO. I call it a responsibility, but no matter how much things grew, her heart remained in another small corner, an old coffee shop. One afternoon, she quietly returned, unannounced. Elena was still behind the counter. She looked up, smiled faintly. Elena, you're quite famous now. Want an autograph? Anna pushed the door open. Anna, I just want a coffee. The cafe was different. Photos of veterans lined the walls. Ray, Tiffany, even the widowed wife who never left table number 3. Near the counter, a new wooden sign was hung, Anna's Corner, where no one has to sit alone down. That evening, Anna drove to a fundraiser for veteran families. A small event, plastic folding tables, cheap pastries, and posters drawn with crayons by children. She stood there. No notes. Anna, I never intended to build a program. I just couldn't bring myself to kick out a man and his dog from a place where they had found themselves again. No one said anything. Then applause rippled through the room. Not fast, not fierce, but sincere, and longer than anything else. From the back, Ray stood, a silver star pinned to his chest, and a silent salute, military style, sent straight to Anna. Late evening, the center was empty. Anna sat alone in front of the photo wall. She pinned it up a new picture, a snapshot of the crowd standing and applauding at the afternoon's fundraiser. Beside it, she repinned the old photo. Michael, her husband, sitting outside the cafe all those years ago, coffee cup in hand, eyes still alive. Beneath the two photos, she wrote a line. Honor doesn't come from grand gestures, but from how we preserve kindness every day. Just as she stood up, the sound of a door creaking open. A young soldier entered. Loose jacket, hands in pockets, eyes not making contact. Young soldier, excuse me, is this the place for people like me? Anna turned. The late afternoon light shone on her face, tired but bright. Anna, no, son, this is the place for all of us. And so her circle didn't close. It expanded with every breath, every nod, every warm cup of coffee. In an increasingly hurried world, there are seemingly small things. An unprinted sign, a soldier yet to tell his story, a dog who only knows to lie quietly under a table, that keep us human. But sometimes it's the quiet moments that define us. Anna Fischer wore no uniform, stood on no pedestal of glory, but she stood up at a time when everyone else was silent, to protect something sacred, dignity. And in doing so, she reminded us that honor isn't a medal to be displayed, but a choice repeated daily, even when no one is watching. Perhaps the story at Cobalt House is just a small slice of life, but it shouldn't be an exception. How many people like Anna, silently standing up, do we fail to notice? How many veterans have been thanked with slogans instead of an empty chair and a refilled coffee cup? In an increasingly divided world, this story doesn't just touch the heart. It asks a question. What will you do when it's your turn to stand up? Have you witnessed an act of kindness, quiet yet moving? Share it in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone else to do the right thing at a time when no one else dares. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, share with those who believe heroes don't need armor, just quiet courage. On this channel, we tell stories that matter, because sometimes the strongest stance isn't accompanied by a military salute, but by a cup of coffee and an unjudging eye.